Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to Letitia Live with your morning drive. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? I know, I understand. I know. Honestly, I struggled this morning with getting up, but I was adamant that I was going to do it. So I'm going to get right into it. You guys know how I am. I don't wait around. I say what I have to say. So these 5 days, because I won't be live until next Monday again. So it's Monday through Friday that we're going to work and we're going to walk towards true empowerment and understanding how to free ourselves. Why? Because mindset matters. So, with that being said, I want you guys to authentically start to understand and embrace, how do I change a thing? How do I move forward from things that have hurt me? So we went over the definition on Monday, what it means. What does drive mean? Again, that's something that urges you to complete a task and or a goal. That's your drive. But drive can be good and the drive can be bad. And then we also learned on Tuesday, I want to say, about empower. And that's when you gain control over your life and your rights. You become stronger and more confident. Then on Wednesday, we learned about acknowledgement, and we have to acknowledge those things in our life that we don't always want to acknowledge, but we have to, in order for us to move forward, in order for us to actually be able to do what it is that we need to do. We have to acknowledge this thing hurt, acknowledge that I had to make the right choice and or decision. There are things in your life you're going to have to acknowledge. Again, we're trying to change our mindsets in order to change our lives, and there are things you have to do. There are 4 steps. Remember: acknowledge, accept, embrace, and evolve. We've already done acknowledge, we've already done accept. On yesterday, we learned that we had to accept the gift of the truth. That's the only way you're going to be able to move forward. That's the only way that you're going to be able to actually evolve and do some things, is that you're going to have to accept the gift of the truth. So today is going to be a little bit more like passiony, but yet not. And we're going to talk about embrace and what does it mean to embrace, right? So I thought I had pulled it up, the definition. I thought I had it in my notes, but I actually didn't. I got sidetracked. So I'm going to give you the definition, the one that I actually like. It's an act of accepting or supporting something willingly. So we're going to talk about, again, we just talked about accepting on yesterday. So as you come in, just tell me good morning so I know you're there. So we're going to talk about, remember yesterday we talked about accepting, right? And that's accepting the truth as a gift. No matter how ugly the truth is, that's your gift, because in truth is freedom. So if you're not willing to accept the gift of truth, then you're choosing to believe the lie that either you've made up or someone else has made up. So the definition for embrace, the one that we're going to talk about, is an act of accepting or supporting something willingly. So are you willing to support a thing? Right? So remember, there's 4 steps: acknowledge, accept, embrace, and evolve. But all of these definitions go hand in hand. They intertwine with each other. That's why I so love it, because it gives you the ability to see that you really cannot have one thing without the other. One of the other main definitions of embrace is to bring in closely with your arms, to bring it in. So how in the world, Letitia, am I going to bring in with love and willingness and accept the things that hurt me, the thing that damaged me, the thing that wounded me, the thing that caused me so much pain? Because now you accept that. Once you acknowledge it, then you accept the gift of the truth. It allows you to embrace it. And most of you, oh, I keep forgetting my glasses, the glare. Most of you have to remember that the truth does not feel good. The truth is not always something that somebody wants to come back and forth and say and do and want to change this and change that. You don't always want to accept the gift of the truth, because the truth is a gift. Does it hurt? Yes, but it allows you the ability to get a clearer picture of what it is that's going on, to get a better understanding of who you are and whose you are. And in order for you to do all that, now that you've acknowledged it, now that you've accepted, it's time for you to embrace it. It's time for you to accept it willingly. There are things in my life I could not change. I had to embrace that thing. I had to bring that in willingly. I had to bring that thing in close. Tisha, it's okay. And I like to give that definition of embrace, because that's you hugging yourself, that it's okay. Even though I know my heart is broken, even though I know mentally I may not be where I want to be, physically, mentally, financially, or even spiritually, I'm going to hold me close. because this is when you learn how to do self-care. Embracement allows you to embrace yourself willingly. Because, see, this is the thing. Many people who be like, oh, I got confidence. I know who I am. I love myself, this, that, and the third. When you spend about 30 to 45 minutes with them, you realize that's not a true statement, because they have yet to willingly accept themselves. Because when you embrace a thing, you're coming in, you're willingly accepting that, you know what, there are things about me I cannot change, but I still have to love me enough to change my mindset in order to change my life. So we've went through, what does it mean to have drive? There's good drive and there's bad drive. There's urgency about this thing. That means I'm going to urgently obtain this goal that I need. But you can also have a bad drive, what motivates you to get these things. So you got to understand, you cannot change your mindset if you're constantly trying to prove other people wrong. That's not how this works. So on Monday, we learned about that drive. On Tuesday, we learned about what it means to acknowledge a thing. No, what it means to embrace, right? Not embrace. We learned what it means to be empowered. So now you got to ask yourself, okay, now that I understand what my drive is, am I empowered? Remember, empower is what? Gaining control over your life and claiming your rights, becoming stronger and more confident. If you are not these things, if you go to an empowerment summit and all this other kind of stuff, and you are not these things, you have not been empowered. You have simply been, hopefully, encouraged, right? So as you continue to move forward, as you continue to do this thing, as you continue to allow yourself to be become free, because this is the process of becoming free. Now you have to acknowledge it. Now you have to accept it. And now today we're going to talk about embracing and what it means to embrace. Because now it's you bringing all this garbage, this stuff that has never went anywhere. It never went anywhere. You tried to hide it. You buried it, so you thought. You didn't think it affected you. Didn't realize you was attached to it. You didn't even understand that you had tucked this thing with you forever, because in your mind it was back there. When just because the truth hurts, it don't go nowhere. It don't erase. You can't. It don't erase. I know people think they can. They try to invent themselves. They speak a certain way about the truth because they believe that that's going to deny its fact, that it's actually true, but it's not. So how do I embrace the pain? You're not embracing the pain. You're embracing the gift of the truth. And in that is peace. In that is freedom. In that is restoration. In that takes something, because the truth does not feel good. But in order for me to freely move about, I have to embrace this thing. I have to. And when you understand that that's you loving on you, that's you embracing who you are authentically, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. That's all you. And as you continue to learn how to mold, and as you continue to learn how to move forward, as you continue to learn how to just allow yourself the opportunity to articulate to you what you like. A lot of times I tell my clients, you know what? You can't expect somebody else to love you a certain way if you don't know how to love yourself that way. You can't tell me what you require of somebody to be in a relationship with you, and you've never been in a relationship with yourself. What are things that you like? See, this is when you have to willingly accept and bring in with all authenticness and willingness, that when I bring this stuff in, I know when I open myself up that I can't no longer allow it to control me. I cannot allow it to decide and determine which way I'm going to go. I can no longer be led of my emotions. I have to have a clear head, a clear mind, a clear concept of what it is that I'm doing. And in the midst of that embracement, that's the healing process. That's that thing that, it's almost like that exhale moment, like, because you can't embrace somebody else wholeheartedly if you cannot embrace yourself wholeheartedly. If you're struggling with acknowledging who you are and accepting in that moment that you're broken, you cannot embrace somebody else's truth and you're not willing to embrace your own truth. Because remember, truth is the gift, and the truth hurts. So as you begin to learn how to embrace it, as you begin to learn how to hold it, as you begin to learn how to acknowledge it, as you begin to learn how to accept it, as you understand that in this process of embracement, I am becoming more confident. I am becoming stronger. I am gaining control over my life and my rights. See, that's how the embracement works. When you begin to accept that I couldn't change certain things, but it's not going to determine who I am. I determine that. I speak that. And as you begin to embrace the truth, it does not feel good, but it empowers you because now you are confident, more confident. Now you are stronger. Now you're gaining control over your life and claiming your rights. But it was a process. You have to acknowledge, there are things in my life I could not change. I did not know. I didn't have the strength in that moment. I sat there too long. Now you have to accept that there were things in your life you could not change, even if you wanted to. That don't feel good. And sometimes the embrace takes longer because in the embrace is when you rest. Listen, when people give you a hug, I'm talking about a real hug, somebody you ain't seen in a long time, you know what I'm saying? And they come and hug you, or you so full, you know what I'm saying? And they come in and they embrace you. It's like that exhale moment. Like now you can exhale, right? And so now you're trying to figure out, man, like, where does this go? How do I? How can I? When will I? Because I don't know how I'm going to, right? As those things begin to evolve, as you begin to embrace, then the evolvement. And the definition of evolvement is simply forward movement. That's what it is. Forward movement. You cannot evolve backwards. That's not possible. You can fast forward. You can evolve forward, but you cannot, there's not even a way. That's not going to happen. Not a zilch, zero. So the question is, how bad do you want to change your mindset in order to change your life? There are things in life right now that you cannot change because you don't know how to change them. It's not that you're not willing to change them. You just have yet to figure out, well, how am I supposed to change this thing? Like, how do I allow this thing to change? How many of you can honestly say that you have embraced your truth? Huh? Have you embraced your truth? That's my question. Have you embraced it? How do you embrace it? When will you embrace it? These are so many questions that you have to ask yourself in that moment. Because yeah, we're going to talk about evolvement because everybody always want to move on, but you can't always move on from the truth because truth is going to always be a part of you. Am I going to always talk about that I was violated, grew up in an abusive home? No, but that's going to always be a part of my truth because in that gift of truth is my freedom. Nobody always want to talk about the bad choices and decisions that they made, but that's a part of their truth. But as people evolve from it, it is not your place and or position to continue to talk about it. Because true evolvement, it shows evidence. True evolvement, you will see it. It ain't nothing you got to think about. There's nothing you got to guess about. It is authentically true. That's evolvement. That's how you begin to really move forward. That's how you begin to allow yourself the ability to go forward. But you have to acknowledge it. You have to accept it and you have to embrace it. Why? Because accept says what? Embrace says what? Acceptance willingly. That you bring it in. No, it didn't look good. No, it didn't feel good, but you have to bring it in. Because if you don't or you choose not to, you're not going to evolve. You're not going to grow. You're not going to move forward. You're just going to simply be here and be stuck. And as you continue to be here and be stuck, what happens is it doesn't feel good. So what you begin to do, I'm sorry guys. So what you begin to do is you begin to create a thing, you begin to make up a thing, you begin to kind of like not understand which way you're supposed to go. All you know is that you're not where you want to be, and you're not sure how you're going to get there, but you know you don't want to stay in the state that you're in. But at some point, you became, what's the word? You became comfortable in the dysfunction of your life, because that's what we're going to talk about next week, dysfunction. You became dysfunctional. But I wanted you to get these steps: acknowledge, accept, embrace, and evolve. Because when you learn how to do those things, it makes things so much more better for you here. It doesn't mean you're not going to have a breakdown. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be stressed out and all this. It don't mean none of that. What it means is that you're going to have to decide, which way am I going to take this? How am I going to take this? How am I going to move this? How am I going to allow myself the ability and the freedoms to move forward? Hold on, guys. I feel so bad. Like, I tried to get all this done, but let's do it. So now we're gonna evolve from it. Now that's forward movement. Now we got it going, guys. Now we feel like, you know what, I can change, I can do this, I can do that, but you can't skip steps. That's what I want to talk about today as well. You cannot skip the steps. You cannot say, well, I'm going to acknowledge it, but I don't have to accept it. Well, then you can't embrace the truth, because if you're not accepting it, then you're not accepting the truth, that the gift of the truth. This is a forced up process for a reason. You keep saying, I'm going to acknowledge it, but I'm not going to accept it. Well, you can't evolve from it because you cannot accept the truth. When you realize, when you take truth as a gift that it is, that means that it don't feel good. You know, you open a present and that ain't necessarily what you want, but that's what you need. That's how you have to use truth in your life. You cannot, listen, these four steps are there for a reason. In order to change your life, you have to change your mindset. And if you don't do that, you're going to be stuck like Chuck in a rut and you're not going anywhere. So for these last 5 days, the day being the fifth day, we've talked about that. We've evolved. We're moving forward. We're deciding. Now, you know what? I don't want to be stuck here. I don't want the same mindset. I see people. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it, guys. I'm watching people. I want to start a business. I want to do this. And I've told y'all this. I don't care if they give you $1 million. If you have a poverty mindset, you're just $1 million. You got $1 million that'll be gone in the blink of an eye, because you have yet to have the wisdom. You have to acknowledge, you know what? I don't know everything. You have to accept that I need help. That's the only way you're going to be able to embrace this stuff. And so as you continuously, this ain't something that happened overnight. For some reason, we've become that microwave type of people, that instant gratification. Change don't happen like that for everything, especially if you've been in something ugly for so long. My change on my attitude, my change on how I perceived a thing, how I saw a thing, that didn't change overnight. That took work. I couldn't embrace that stuff. I had to embrace the fact that it was me. Because at some point, it's no longer the circumstance or the situation. It's you. The things that happened to me when I was 12, and I was actually younger than that, 3. Now I'm in my 20s. I can't keep using that as an excuse, because that means that thing is controlling me. I tell y'all, whatever make you change, whenever you get that and somebody come in the room and now your whole attitude has changed, that person controls you. If somebody know how to come in the room and cause you to just act a plum fool, that person controls you. See, that's your truth. Some of y'all don't want to accept the gift of the truth. The truth is, it's you. I can't change the fact that I was violated. God knows I cannot. I cannot change the fact that my father beat my mother. There's nothing I can do about that. But what I can do is make sure I don't repeat the same cycles. But when I don't accept the gift of the truth, when I choose not to do that, I cannot be free. Because then I'm walking around in a delusion, believing a lie that is everybody else but me. If I keep getting in relationships and I keep getting jobs and I keep getting things and I'm the one keep getting fired because of my mouth, it's not the job, it's me. That's the gift of the truth, but most people don't want to accept that. Y'all, my attitude was bad. My attitude was nasty. I did have a problem with authority figures. Why? Because, like I told you guys yesterday, everybody that had that authority position in my life, right, they hurt me. So that means I put everybody in authority in that category. So before you can get me, I'm going to get you. See, I've told y'all, I know what it's like to have my loved one tell me at 10 years old, and I still think that's not the right age. I might have been younger. That they wanted to been fight me. They wanted to fight me for a long time. How long? Because you grown with kids and I'm 10. But my mouth, because I was hurt, I spewed it out. I knew how to get to you. But I had to embrace that. It did not feel good. That Tisha, yeah, you're correct. These things did happen to you. But how long are you going to use that as an excuse not to evolve, not to move forward? Yes, your father was very abusive to your mother. God knows he was. That don't make every man, because if you go around with that wall up like this, like we talked about, you're not going to be able to see the signs because you're choosing to refuse to believe the gift of the truth, that you have not allowed yourself to acknowledge that I was hurt. I was a very angry person. So, I mean, like I told many of y'all, I went either way. It just depended on how I felt that day, because I didn't know what it meant to authentically be true to myself, because I didn't know how to acknowledge that I was hurt. I didn't want to accept that I had been hurt, so I couldn't embrace it. I know what it's like to constantly run to the altar. I'm gonna go to the altar. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do, and nothing changed. It didn't mean that I didn't want it to change. I didn't know how to acknowledge and accept it, and I didn't know how to address what was really wrong with me. Some of y'all keep telling people you got a nasty attitude, you got a bad attitude. I used to hear it all the time, but nobody wanted to acknowledge that this girl growing up in an abusive household. Because again, we grew up in a time where you don't disrespect grown people, you don't talk back to grown people, you don't say that. Well, these grown people that I've been entrusted with, they telling me that God don't hear nothing I gotta say. They're telling me at the age of 10 that they want to fight me. They're calling me a whore. I'm 5, I'm 10. No, I think I was 9. But I'm a whore at 9. These are adults. So before you put your mouth on some of these young people and something in their, like in their attitude shifted, ask yourself, what is their truth? So no, I didn't want to hear you when you call yourself constructively criticizing me. You can't criticize me constructively. You can give me constructive feedback. And how I know you're not the person to correct me, because you get in an attitude with me. That means you got the same issue. It's not just because I'm young. It's because you feel like I'm questioning your authority. It wasn't until I got older that I realized it ain't that I didn't like older people. It was because the older people in my life that I trusted wounded me. So how do I move forward from that? How do I embrace that? How do I acknowledge that? And then on top of having a bad attitude, now I got a learning disability. What else gonna do? How am I gonna move forward, Tisha? How do I change my mindset from that? The very first thing that I told y'all on Monday that you gotta do is accept that it's you. It was me that needed the help. The people who violated me, they were gone. I didn't even see them, but they controlled my thoughts. I told this person this one time when one of my violators died, I refused to allow him to control me from the dead. Because some of y'all still, these people done died and they still got you. They still holding you. And because you won't accept the gift of the truth, I realized that it took me years. I was in my 30s when I realized I had to forgive myself for something somebody else had done. Because part of my psyche told me I should have knew better. How? I was 3. How was I going to know better? I remember words that people said to me. You're not this. You're not going to be this. You're not that. And I started feeling resentful. And so I'm trying to prove them wrong. And in the same time, proving them right. Because you cannot evolve with hatred in your life. I don't care what you say. You cannot evolve with hatred in your life. You will not evolve if you don't accept the gift of the truth. You cannot. It's not happening. It's a wrap. Let it go. So now we're trying to figure out, how do I embrace a thing that hurt me? See, you keep looking at it wrong. Because of the things that we went through, we separate our truth. There's a psychological term. His name is Carl Rogers. And he said we have 3 states of mind, pretty much. We have the real us, the ideal us, and the ought to be us. And most of us operate on the ought to be, and that's the actual term, ought to be, because you trying to be what somebody said you ought to be. Your mama said you ought to be this. The pastor said you ought to be that, or they said God said. Either way, you ought to be this. The ideal you is the one you want to be. You want to be happy. You want to be content. You want to have a good life. You want to be happily married, or you want to have an amazing job, or you want a prosperous business. That's your ideal you. The problem with that is that most of you refuse to accept the real you, embrace where you're at right now. And in embracing that, like when you bring it in like this, that helps with closure, and that helps you feel yourself, because things that have happened, you've become so numb to it that you don't even know how to move forward from it. So because you're refusing, and I mean what I say, you are refusing to accept the gift of the truth, you will always be stuck. But you don't have to be. You got to go in and you got to change it. No, I'm not going to always have a bad attitude. No, I'm not going to always disrespect authority. Now I got to acknowledge, Tisha, this you. It's really you, friend. Now what you going to do about it? Because I can't embrace anything if I have not accepted the gift of the truth. But in the embracement is me telling myself, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be who they said you ought to be. And you don't have to be embarrassed of the real you. If you have an ideal you that you really authentically want to be, then embrace your truth as the gift that it is. Angela Davis say, I cannot accept the things that I cannot change, so I'll change the things that I cannot accept. But before you can do any of those things, you have to accept the truth as the gift that it authentically is. So now as you move forward, now as you begin to understand, man, you know what? This stuff right here, this really is me. This ain't because of so-and-so. This ain't because of this person. This is because of me. And that don't feel good. That's when you want to cry. That's when you're trying to, and what you got to understand is in this process, it almost feels like it gets worse, like it manifests. Because I went through I'm not telling y'all something I did not go through. It seemed like when I started going through this doggone process, everybody got on my nerves. Everybody was saying stuff to get under my skin. Everybody was making me mad. And it was like, authentically, this is true. But what's happening is, it's like giving birth. You done carried that thing for so long. The only way the pain gonna go away is when you push the baby out. And that's how you got to look at it. I'm in the final stages. Some of you are in that stage. That's why you're so much more sensitive about it. That's why you catch yourself feeling more bad. Like, more, I don't even know if I can say more bad. That's why you catch yourself feeling bad about it than what you normally would. Why? Because you're in the process of healing. That means you're embracing the fact that, you know what? I could have handled that situation better. You know what? He was not like my previous boyfriend or my previous husband. You know what? She was not like my previous boss. So as you begin to embrace the truth, remember, you accepted the gift of the truth. Now you have to embrace it, because now that makes it more human like. And you're afraid to do that because that makes you vulnerable. But in the embrace is the exhale. In the embrace is the rest. I cannot change what happened to me in my life, but I be doggone if I'm gonna let that control the rest of my life. Wrong answer. Not gonna happen. Not today. Not doing it. But it took a minute. Y'all want quick because you don't want to go through the process. You don't want to evolve. You don't want to acknowledge it. You just want to jump over it. You just want to say, I'm done. You just want to say, I'm already there. I crack jokes all the time about the new church and the old church. I remember we had to tarry for Yahshua now. We had to stay down there and call his name, and tears run down our face. And I remember asking lady, I didn't say lady, I think she had on a white dress. I was like, am I saved? She was like, no, because I asked. What? Now keep calling him. Now you just want to go. This is how we do. We just want to go and get it and don't have to change nothing. How do you evolve if you don't change nothing? How does a caterpillar become a butterfly if he don't go into the cocoon stage? There has to be a change. If there is no change, you are not evolving. If you don't move from one location to the next, you are not evolving. If you're still holding the hurt, and some of y'all don't even want to believe that it's you because you don't see the stuff. What's happening is you pulling it behind you. That's why it's weighing you down. That's why you get heavy. That's why I feel like it's on your shoulders, because you think if I don't acknowledge the truth as the gift that it is, then it didn't happen. But everywhere you go, that thing on your back. It's on your shoulders. It's talking to you. It's moving with you. It's swaying with you. You going like this. It's going like that. It's in your next relationship. It's at your next job. It's on your next venture. That thing ain't go nowhere because you ain't want to acknowledge it. You didn't want to accept it. And you can't embrace it if you don't do those two things. So how do I get out of this rut? You got to come face to face with that thing. When you tell me you empowered, then I'm looking for growth. Don't tell me you empowered and you don't have no control over your attitude, your mouth, nothing. Because when you are empowered, it says you become stronger. When you allow other people to control your emotions, honey, you are not stronger. They are stronger than you. You lost. If I'm going to go off on you, you better believe it's going to be strategic. And me going off on you don't even mean it got to come out my mouth. It can come through my actions so I can shut your mouth. So you got to understand, I'm not going to let you sway me like that. But I had to learn how, in order for me to say I am empowered, I had to become stronger. Then I had to become more confident, because some of you lack confidence in yourself. Who are you? You can't tell me you know whose you are if you don't have a clue who you are. So now you got to become more confident. Stop seeking approval from everybody else. You can't do that. You're never going to grow. If all you're trying to find out is this right? What you think? I'm not telling you don't get like the views and the opinions of others. That's not what I'm telling you. Take that to the table, but you ain't got to eat it. Every advice is not good advice for you in that situation. Some of that stuff you got to put on the back burner. So as you begin to evolve, now you saying I'm empowered. I went to this empowerment conference. Okay. Are you stronger, or did you just go back to that same situation? Good morning, Festus. Did you come back from the same situation? Because if ain't none of this happened, then you're not evolving. You're not moving forward. You're not doing any of the above. All you're doing is recycling that thing, and you just keep going around the same mountain. What you doing? You switching jobs. I'm moving from here because you have no stability. Now, this my pastor from a long time ago. She was my longtime pastor. She said something, and that thing stick with me. Some of y'all just got a dissatisfied spirit. Nothing you do is going to make you feel better because you don't want to acknowledge the truth that is you. You can't embrace it willingly, because in the embrace is the empowerment. That means all that crap that's been controlling me, that's been out here, I brought it in here. You know how they say kill them with kindness? You got to kill those thoughts. You got to kill, honey, you got to look, no, because if you don't, it'll always control you. My mouth, I know it was reckless. I could say some stuff that would, because I don't know how to curse. I'm gonna be honest. I don't sound right when I cuss, right? But baby, I can tell you off without ever saying a cuss word, right? I think I get it from my grandma, right? So I could do that. And when I did it, I meant it. I remember telling people, I don't regret what I said. I just regret how I said it. What? And I'm telling you, my cousins then would be like, Tisha, you just can't say that. Yes, I can, because I was hurt in that moment. And sometimes it's hard to explain why I always got to know better. Why you can't know better. Well, if both of us dysfunctional, one of us got to be willing to become functional. So how do I embrace it? I've acknowledged that thing, Tisha, and it's ugly. I don't like it. I've accepted the gift of the truth, Tisha, and I don't like the truth either, because that hurt. I don't always, why? Because sometimes you've created a falsehood. Remember, I just told you guys that we operate in three. This is psychological. This is actual. You have the real you, the ideal you, and the ought to be you. Most of the time, we operate in these two. The ought to be. The ought to be means this who they say I ought to be. The pastor say I ought to be doing this. My mama say I ought to be doing that. My teacher say I ought to be doing that. And if you keep trying to strive to be everybody else's ought to be, you're never going to be who you really are. Now, the other set of us operate in the ideal us, meaning that's the image we want people to believe we are. This is how I ideally see myself. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this, even if it means lie about it. So this ought to be me. That's the one I want everybody to think I got it going on. Oh, she got this and she got, because that's who I feel like I ought to be. What they don't see is the debt, the misery, the confusion, the low self-esteem, because I'm not gonna let them see that. And the whole time you're neglecting the real you. You cannot evolve. The real you got to go with you where you go. But you don't know that person because you've worked so hard. You've worked hard not to give that person their props, their truth. You've worked so hard not to do it. So now you don't know how to get back to that. It's okay to be broken. You just can't stay that way. It's okay to be wounded, but you got to heal. I tell people everything got a time and a season. Don't let nobody make you out here, oh honey, you can't be hating people. That's a lie. Because there's a time and a season for everything, a time to love and a time to hate. There are times when you don't have to go to war, and then there are times where you're going to have to go to war. So stop trying to take the back seat to make yourself feel like you humble. Some of you cannot do that because you are an equipped warrior. When I stopped trying to be the humble cat and realized, no, I am an equipped warrior. So I am built to go to war. But you got to ask yourself who and what you going to war with, because you're not going to war with everybody. Everybody's not that position. So I am the one that's going to address it. I had to learn how to articulate it better. So how do I embrace it? How do I evolve from it? How do I move forward? How do I continue to grow, acknowledge it, accept it, embrace it, and evolve from it? But right now, some of you are in this stage and you want to bring it closer. And when you bring it closer, it magnifies it. I had to bring it closer that I was angry at my violators. And I remember thinking when this person died, I'd be doggone if you're going to control me from the grave. I was grown with three kids at that time. And he died. And I cried, and I was mad because I cried, because some of y'all got to understand process of healing. And it was the weirdest day because my cousin, because it was her dad, called me crying because he had died. And I use this a lot because this is truth for some of you. She crying because her daddy died, and I'm crying because he was my violator and he died. Now I'm trying to figure out why I'm crying, because I should be mad, but my tears were released, fear, anger, and all the other stuff in between. How is that possible? Because I realized in that moment I had never forgiven him or myself, and that I was waiting for something. I was waiting for an apology. I was waiting for a why. And now that he's dead, I will never get it. So how do I evolve from that? And I got on the floor, y'all. I was crying. Do you hear me? My kids were like, what's wrong? I couldn't even articulate the hurt and the pain. And it resonated again, almost like it had just happened. I remember the clothes I had on, and I remember everything. But baby, I was down there, and I remember I said, God, I will not carry this any longer. He will not control me from the grave. That situation will not control me. I can't let it happen. How do I heal from it? The answer was forgive yourself. I'm not mad at me. Yes, you are. Forgive yourself. Say, you know what? I did not know any better. I was a kid, y'all. I was like 3. I could not. You'll live your life saying, "Well, I should have said stop, or I should have did this, or I should have been that, I should have did that." Because literally, this was a very bad situation. I even blamed myself for one of my cousins who ended up actually being the strong one and telling. And when my parents asked me, had he done it to me, I said no. Because he told me if I said anything, that my daddy was going to go to jail. I've told y'all that story before. So those words controlled me into my adulthood. Because then it made me ashamed as if it was my fault. I don't want my daddy to go to jail. So I watched one of my cousins go through the process. And I remember feeling so bad about it. I remember just my heart was broken. And I was in elementary school. So she will always and forever be my hero. Was it easy for her? No. So when I got in my 30s, 3 kids, I finally was able to acknowledge that it was not my fault. And I had to acknowledge my truth that for all those years, I allowed them to control me. For all those years, my anger, my issue with people in authority was because of the stuff that had dropped, the things that had happened in my life. And I had to acknowledge that that was me. Tisha, that's your fault. Let it go. Let it go. Acknowledge the gift. Accept the gift of the truth. And the truth is, at some point, you became a willing, I don't want to say willing victim, but you became willing to succumb to circumstances that took place in your past. At some point, you can't want to keep having a bad attitude. At some point, you can't keep wanting to get in toxic relationships. At some point, you can't keep wanting to keep getting fired from the same job. When do you acknowledge this really got something to do with me? That's part of the embrace. But embracing my truth mean that thing had to come up in my face like this, and I didn't want to do that. So how do I sway? How do I move from this? How do I keep going? I had to get in here and change my mindset. I will not be. And I had to cut that cord. I do not have to settle for less. I had to cut it. I am not a victim, but I am victorious. Cut it. Because I didn't realize that the puppet master of the situations that had happened in my life were controlling my movement, was controlling my verbiage, was controlling my speech, was controlling my thoughts, was controlling my behavior. When I realized it was here, and the only person that could go in and change it was me. My mama couldn't do it for me. My daddy couldn't do it for me. My grandma couldn't do it for me. I couldn't just sit and pray it out. There are things you got to come head on with. Because when you fast, what people don't tell y'all is that stuff come up. It rises up, y'all. It rises up. So how do I embrace it? What's my next step, Tisha? I've embraced it. I brought it in. It hurt, but it don't hurt as much, or it does not hurt anymore. Now you can evolve properly. And evolvement is forward movement. But until you acknowledge, accept it, embrace it, you will never evolve from it. And I had to go through that ugly process. And I'm actually 12 minutes over my time that I'm supposed to be gone, but I want to leave y'all with something I was talking about to one of my clients yesterday. And we were talking about the process of like the caterpillar and the cocoon and the butterfly. And I just want to leave y'all with this because some of y'all over that stage of crawling. You know what I'm saying? You're in the cocoon and you don't understand what's going on. First of all, a cocoon, nobody else helped that caterpillar put that cocoon up. He do that all by himself, right? So now life, because you're changing and you're intertwining that thing and you're covering that thing. Because you know in your mind, that's a mindset, baby, that when I come out, I will not be who I was when I went in. And some of you are fully enclosed. And so what you're feeling is the fear. Because imagine if I'm in a cocoon, I can't see what's going on out here. I can hear the wind blowing. And some of that stuff so close up on me, I'm swaying like this. And I can't come out too soon because I'm going to die. So I got to keep the mindset of, in spite of what it feels like, look like, taste like, I'm going to come out of this thing. But the danger in always seeking somebody else's approval, and I want to leave y'all with this, that as a cocoon, as the butterfly begin to come out of the cocoon, right? And you know it seems like it takes so long because it's like a little stage. If somebody come in and help that butterfly come out before it's ready to fly, it'll never fly. It'll never fly. So why go through the process of evolvement and get stopped midway? And now you can't soar like you want to because you wanted somebody else to intervene. There are things that you can do on your own. You've been equipped from the beginning. You are not trying to find your purpose. All you need to do is walk in your purpose. All that hell I went through, that was my purpose to get me to where I'm at right now. I didn't have to find that. I didn't have to find no child molester. I didn't have to find a dad who abused my mom. I didn't have to find poverty. That stuff was there. I didn't have to look for none of that. But I'm walking in my purpose because I took all that and I made it a stepping stone and not a stumbling block. So on the weekend, because we about to be done, And I went over by like, I'm just gonna be like 15 minutes. I want you guys to not simply be encouraged, but be empowered. And to be empowered means that you're stronger, more confident, that you've claimed control over your life and your rights. And that and your rights part, that's deep. Stop accepting simple liberties. That don't mean nothing. Liberties just mean you could do. You don't, if you don't have ownership of it, if you don't have ownership of it, it's not yours. And somebody can come and take it. And you don't want people to come and take you because you don't have ownership of you, because you don't want to acknowledge you. You don't want to accept you. You don't want to embrace you. So therefore you cannot evolve. And what happens is somebody else want to come in and help, and now they control you. They control your confidence level. They control your emotions. They control how you move, how you walk, and how you talk. They control that. So I want you guys to 100% think about that thing over this weekend. Think about who control you. Even if they dead, do they still control you? Is your attitude associated and affiliated with something that happened to you 10 years ago and it's still controlling you? Because if you don't want to believe the negative things that people have said about you, then you're going to have to acknowledge, you know what, that's wrong. I shouldn't even done that. And work on you. Some of you are in that cocoon, baby, and it's scary. Because you can't fight back in the cocoon. I can't go nowhere. I'm covered. Where I'm going to go? I can't go nowhere. I'm here. That process all by itself is scary. I've embraced it and it's consumed me. Oh, but when you come out, you don't have to be on the ground level no more. Now you're soaring. You have an aerial view. And the aerial view is always better than a ground view. The ground view, you have a greater impact. Like whatever happens in the ground, like if a bomb go off on the ground, it's going to affect you, especially if you're right there versus if you're up here. You can see the devastation from a different view, like a different point of view. So it's hard when you're up here to tell somebody that's down here that it's going to get better because it didn't impact you the same way. What you have to understand is you can't make people want to. All I can do is show you how to. I can't make you want to change your mindset. All I can do is show you how to change your mindset. I can't make you be empowered. I can show you how to be empowered. I can't make you want to. When you accept that you can't change other people because you're struggling with changing yourself, you allow people to do whatever it is that they're going to do. So until Monday morning at 6 a.m., you guys have a blessed and wonderful weekend. Thank you again, Festus. You guys, Festus is all the way from Nigeria, and he's been tuning in like the last 3 or so mornings, and he's amazing. And he's the guy who did my logo, the Letitia Anderson logo. But I love you guys. I thank you guys for your support. I do not want to leave you out here. I don't like bad notes, right? So for those of you who feel like, hey, I want to learn a little bit more, I do have a Mindset Matters course. It's literally only $39. I think it's $39. 7 weeks, self-paced. Get in there. Find out where you're at. Find out who you've lent control to over your life. Find out all that stuff. You can reach out to me at 863-397-2912. We can set up a consultation. You can email me or you can message me on my website at www.llanderson.org. But I want you guys to understand that in this season, in this Rona season, so many things can happen for you. So look at the Rona season like that cocoon, because you can't go where you want to go. So get in there, embrace that stuff. So when all this is over, you can soar. Find out what you need to do to get your business legally started. If you have a business and it's stuff that you want to get done, find out how to get that stuff trademarked, okay? Don't be around here talking about it's yours and come to find out it's not. Embrace your ugly, that belongs to me. I paid a lawyer to make sure. I'm still just waiting on the government to send me my registration papers. What I said, ownership. Possess the ownership. So when somebody come at me sideways, I don't worry about it. I got my papers. I got my freedom papers. So until next time, I love all of you guys. Like I said, inbox me, message me. Festus, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you guys this morning for giving me the most valuable thing that you all possess, and that's your time. I am literally like 50 minutes over my time. I wanted to do it in like 30 minutes. Nonetheless, I love all you guys. Make it a great and wonderful day. And in spite of what it looks like, you can move forward, and don't forget to embrace your ugly. And that simply means to be unique, genuine love, and simply you. Make it a great day. Goodbye.